Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to our webinar, Developing Transparent and Accountable Ethical Artificial Intelligence, AI Technologies, to build trust in higher education. We are happy to have each of you joining us today from diverse locations and backgrounds, united by our shared interest in the transformative power of artificial intelligence and its significant impact on the education sector. This webinar is a side event for the 10th Annual Multi-Stakeholder Forum on Science, Technology, and Innovations for the SDGs STI Forum. The forum will be organized by the United Nations Interagency Task Team on STI for the SDGs, IATT, convened by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs and United Nations Trade and Development. Right now, we are at a rapid time of technological advancement. Artificial intelligence continues to revolutionize how we approach learning and teaching. As educators, researchers, technologists, and policymakers, we have a collective responsibility to ensure that AI technologies are transparent, accountable, and ethically designed to foster trust among students, educators, and institutions. Today, we have gathered a panel of experts who will share their knowledge, experience, and insights on how AI is shaping the landscape of the higher educations. Our discussions will explore a variety of crucial topics, including the interactions of AI and computing science, ethical considerations, practical applications in the classroom, and innovative strategies for co-designing the learning materials. We are privileged to have Associate Professor Dennis Wong with us, a mathematics expert from McCall Polytechnic University, Liz Scott, a Principal Cloud Advocate Manager at Microsoft, Dr. Kay Lee, a lecturer from National University of Singapore, specialized in human interface design, Dr. Kimberly Davis, Senior Academic and Digital Development Advisor from the University of Glasgow, her focusing on assessment design. Last but not least, we will hear from Yizhou Cho, a Microsoft MVP in AI, who will share a success story about integrating AI into practical learning environments. Without further ado, let's start our discussions. Hi, Dennis. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. As a mathematics expert, could you please explain artificial intelligence in simpler terms? How is this technology impacting our society?
So in artificial intelligence, in simple terms, you can think about it's like how a computer is designed to help and think like a human. So you can think about in math term, what we are doing is actually we are trying to do pattern recognition. So you try to fit in the data, and they are trying to learn from the data to find some of the patterns, and then they try to make a decision based on those data. So an example would be like, let's say you pass like 10,000 pictures, which involve a cat. And so in the AI, what they try to learn is that they learn the pattern of a cat, and then they tell you whether the picture has cat or not. And that is basically like a very simple terms in how the artificial intelligence work. And so in the old days, how we actually define artificial intelligence is that we have the Turing test. So in the Turing test, actually, it's like you have an AI answer, and then you have a human answer. And then let's say they say in terms of computer intelligence, they say when you cannot differentiate between the computer answer and also the human answer, then they say that's basically how the computer achieve artificial intelligence. And in these days, actually, for chatbot, for like ChatGPT or Grok, they mostly pass the Turing test. And so that means actually in nowadays, the AI actually they do pretty well and is achieving what they call artificial intelligence in the old days. So how that's going to impact the society would be actually there will be quite a big changes. So you can think about AI will be a very great tools for like automation. They will be very good for efficiency. They actually help you guys to make decision better, basically. And it will impact like for in terms of like for example in the computer science society, it will impact a lot. For example, like these days, if you ask like Facebook, Google, actually for most of the program for the coding, they say like around 70% of the code is created by AI, for example. And it will like in the old days, for example, like when we do the programming, like maybe like 90% will be done by human, but these days 70% will be done by like a computer. And so for my advice would be like in the future for computer science, you will need to, for example, to learn how to use AI, how to be a great tool for you to empower your skill set. And you also need to have a good sense on judging whether the result from the AI is good or not, basically. So they sometimes they give you good results, sometimes they give you bad result, but you need to judge whether it will be a good thing or it will be a bad thing, for example. And that requires strong foundation in computer science. So you still need to learn how to do computer science. You still need to learn the foundation of computer science. But in the old days, you need to do the actual coding. But in these days, you need to have a good sense on judging whether the answer from the AI is good or not. And one more thing is that you might also need to be able to give clarity in terms of the instruction to AI. And you also need to be able to ask good questions to the AI, to ask them to ask them to help you to solve problems. And there will be some of the big changes I see in terms of AI and also in computer science.
Okay, interesting. So when you're just talking about some of the computer terms, the input, process, and output, talking about how we distinguish the response from human and the computer. But in the actual environment, when we talk about in the classroom or school, how is AI related to computing science? And right now, there's a lot of the students want to deal with their final year project, their capstone project, doing lots of the interesting AI topic, machine learning or computer vision. What kind of the advice would you give to the beginners or those who are interested about the AI who want to study further? Do you have any ideas to share with them?
So one thing I want to say is that I think students these days are is kind of relying too much on on AI. So for example, in one of the course I teach in so for example, for one of the courses I teach, for example, in discrete math, for example, so let's say when we publish the assignment, for example, we find that most of the answers from the students, they are basically asking the AI to do it, for example. And so it's a great tool, of course, but like it also will make the student relying too much on the AI, and they discourage them to try to answer in their own words and discourage them to actually solve the problem on their own. And so eventually, let's say, for example, in the exam, then when we publish the exam paper, which they need to do it on their own without the use of AI, then they basically cannot do it. And for AI or for like a ChatGPT, for example, these are actually great tool for you to help learning because like if you ask good questions, they give you a very good summary or they give you very good tutorial for you for students to actually learn the things in very simple terms. But also it can be bad for them when you rely them on too much. For example, let's say you try to ask them to work on all the assignments, work on all the projects, and even like for these days research project, let's say you want to do the like for many of the final year project in our school, they work on like artificial intelligence or medical images, for example. The student, they will basically just use the library, they use the large language model to try to solve that problem, but they actually do not understand the fundamental or the foundation on how actually the problem can be solved. And this actually is kind of hindering on the student on how they actually can advance in computer science, can learn the basics, or can improve the computer science knowledge or the computer science society in general. And so that would be one thing which, as an educator for ourselves, for example, we need to think about how to actually help the student to actually learn the foundation. So based on the foundation that they are using the AI for tools, they will be relying on AI too much. How we can, for example, stop that reliance on AI, how we can actually help them to learn the basics, even though we know they are actually using some of the AI tools. So for myself, for example, these days I'm trying to do in-class exercise, which they are not allowed to use computer, they are not allowed to use AI, and they need to answer the questions right away. For example, that would be some of the advice I would have for like an educator in computer science, and also for students who are trying to learn the basics in AI or computer science, for example.
And now I would like to talk to Lee. Lee, I know that you are a principal cloud advocate manager at Microsoft. So, in your experience, could you please share with us the latest trend in the area of ethical AI? Yeah, what is ethical AI and how do we deal with this in the workplace or in the school? What can or it cannot be done with this kind of the technology about the ethical AI? Please.
Thank you, Peter. Ethical AI is a rapidly evolving field, and there's several trends that we're observing. One of the most significant trends is the emphasis on transparency and accountability in AI systems. This involves ensuring that AI models are interpretable and that the decision-making process can be understood and audited. Another important trend is a focus on fairness and bias mitigation. AI systems must be designed to avoid perpetuating existing biases and to promote equitable outcomes. In regards to the second part of the question, Peter, in terms of what can be done for ethical AI, we're seeing applications across various sectors, including education, healthcare, finance. Let's focus on education. In education, ethical AI can be used to personalise learning experiences. It can provide real-time feedback to students. It can support administrative decision-making processes. However, there's also limitations to what ethical AI can achieve. When designing ethical AI systems, it's crucial to recognise that they're not infallible and that they do require continuous monitoring and improvement. And that's a process we call LLM ops or Gen AI ops, that continual development and reinforcement of the information. Additional ethical AI considerations must be integrated into every stage of the development lifecycle, from data collection to model deployment.
But when we are talking about the ethical AI, is there any technological stack that we can use in the higher educations? Is there some kinds of the TED or the platform or the tools that is specifically designed in the ethical AI? Do you have any practical example that how can the responsible or the ethical AI can be implemented in the workplace in the higher education center? Yeah, we would like to understand some of the example on this, please.
Absolutely, Peter. There's several tech stacks that can be leveraged in higher education to implement responsible and ethical AI. I'm going to speak about the products from Microsoft because I am from Microsoft. At Microsoft, we have Microsoft Azure AI Foundry, which includes various Azure AI services. These provide a range of tools for building, deploying, and managing AI models. These services include features for ensuring data privacy, security and compliance, which are essential for maintaining a trusted AI system. A practical example of ethical AI in higher education is the use of AI-powered chatbots to support student services. Many institutions have implemented these chatbots, which provide personalised learning or resource information to students. These provide that personalised assistance to students, helping them navigate their educational experiences or even just campus facilities and services. These things include things like administration processes, access to learning resources, and it gives them timely and concise and grounded information back to the students, and also includes ethical principles into their design. So, for example, students need to be authenticated to gain access to these systems. These systems are provided either via secure applications, so mobile applications that the institution provides, or via web interfaces that students need to log into. And by incorporating these ethical principles in design, institutions can ensure that they have transparent, fair, and accountable interactions of AI and student experiences.
Lee has provided us with some of the practical examples. In addition to the technological example, it is also a good idea to have some more examples that demonstrate expertise in similar professional areas so that we can understand the do's and don'ts of these technologies. How we can effectively engage our target audience. If we talk about the higher education sectors, of course, they will be our students. We are now delighted to have Kay with us today. As an expert, Kay will share her insight on user experience and human-machine interactions. Hi, Kate. Could you share your thoughts on how human interface design should be considered in the use of the AI? Please.
Thank you, Peter. So when we talk about ethical and responsible AI, we often focus on data, algorithm, or policy, but the interface is where users actually encounter and interpret AI system. In that sense, interface design becomes a critical space for shaping users' trust, transparency, and meaningful engagement. Human-centered interface design is not merely cosmetic. It's foundational to how users make sense of AI's actions, how they build a calibrated, not blind trust in it. So let me offer on one example. So think of AI generate responses like those from search or chatbot tools. So when systems like Perplexity, I think this is present a clear rationals and verifiable sources alongside their answers. So Perplexity offer not just answers but explainability. So this is the key component of ethical design. This doesn't just serve the goal of transparency, but it empowers users to participate critically in the process, verifying and validating what they see, which is particularly vital in higher educational settings. So in designing AI system, we should prioritize principles such as feedback clarity, source transparency, and human-in-the-loop interaction. A well-designed interface should not only convey what the AI is doing, but also why, based on what assumption and to what confidence level. If these affordances are not accessible through the interface, then ethical design, no matter how rigorous behind the scenes, can break down in practice. Additionally, we must be attentive to inclusivity and diversity in interface design. This means considering users' accessibility, their cultural context, language, and educational background. An AI interface not only serves technically confident or English-speaking users, is not ethical, is exclusive. True human-centric AI must reflect the priority of learners in our classroom and global communities. So in conclusion, interface design in AI is not just a usability or cosmetic concern, it's an ethical act. It's where machine logic meets human values, and in higher education, where AI is increasingly shaping how we learn and teach, this interface becomes a shared space of accountability, co-agency, and trust. Thank you.
Noted. Do you also have some other recommendations on how transparent classroom practice can be used or can enhance the trust relationship between machine and human?
That's a great question. Thank you for the question, Peter. In the classroom, trust in AI doesn't come automatically. It must be actively cultivated. And one of the most effective ways to do this is through transparent participatory practices that engage both students and educators in shaping how AI is used. In my recent work, I advocate for educators to act as ethical and responsible mediators, not just passive users of AI. It's not only about knowing how to use AI tools, but guiding students to understand when, how, and why to use them. Transparency in this context means modeling responsible use and embedding critical reflection into daily classroom activities. For example, at NUS, the group of researchers, we are currently building a verification and validation framework for students using AI in their coursework. Alongside that, we are designing also a list of guiding questions to help students critically engage with AI-generated outcomes, to encourage them to verify information, question sources, and reflect on the appropriateness of its use. So this approach helps cultivate AI literacy and foster calibrated trust, not blind acceptance. We also piloted a program in a College of Design and Engineering at NUS where students were invited to co-create classroom AI guidelines during our TTG granted project, deciding together what constitutes fair, transparent, and ethical AI use. This co-design guideline approach fosters shared accountability and empowers students to take ownership over how AI supports rather than replaces their learning journey. Ultimately, trust arises from alignment, where AI system, classroom culture, and learners' values are in sync. That's why transparency in education is just about making system interpretable. It's about modeling cultural norms around how AI should be used responsibly and reflectively. As educators, we can lead this shift by making transparent AI use part of the learning experience itself. Thank you.
Thank you for the sharing, Kate. When we talk about trust, we cannot overlook the fact that human communication is still crucial in making assessment work in both the workplace and higher educations. Consider knowledge management and how skill is transferred to the students during their internship and placement job. This is a critical part of their learning and growth. Hi, Kimberly. I know one of your research focus is on assessment design. Could you share the current challenge in the higher education sector or in some of the consultancy? How AI is changing the assessment landscape? Can you provide us with some of the example, please?
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much for having me and for asking. That's a really, really big question. So as an academic developer and as someone who specializes in assessment and assessment and feedback literacy, I see the current challenge of AI and assessment design as twofold. One, you have staff who feel that, no matter what, students are going to use it to cheat. So they'll use things like ChatGPT, Consensus, Copilot, Gemini, all these AI tools to do the work for them, right? Instead of showing up to class, taking notes, engaging with the learning, engaging with the assessment task. They think they're just going to pop in the assessment question into one of these tools and take the answer that comes with it. And as we know with some of these tools right now, they don't always pop out the most accurate answers or the most accurate references if you ask it for referencing. And staff won't always know that these references aren't correct because most staff don't know every single piece of literature that's written in their field. So some are worried students are going to cheat. We're not going to be able to tell. They're going to pass. And I think on the other side of this is with this idea that some staff have, like, okay, students are going to cheat. They're going to use AI to cheat. It's how do we design assessments that then become AI proof, or rigorous enough that AI cannot really be used as a benefit. And I think a lot of this comes down to really thinking about meaningful assessment design, looking at how you build in those authentic assessment tasks that mirror what the real world would be asking of our students, and thinking about ways that we can build in this conversation and build in this idea that it is possibly okay to use AI tools to help you in certain ways and what those ways are. A lot of staff are not having those explicit conversations with their students around AI use, around the tools, and around expectations for the completion of their assessment tasks.
Okay. So in your experience, when we do the assessment or when we do the interactions with the students or audience, what kind of the impact does this have on the trust relationship between the instructor and the students under all this influence of the responsible AI, ethical AI? Can you share with us some of the example as well?
This is also a big question and a really complicated, I think, answer. Obviously, the challenges and this kind of rise in thinking of AI as being solely for, academic misconduct or academic dishonesty is very detrimental to that teacher-student relationship. When you don't have that trust, your students don't feel they can take those risks and be wrong, or try new things. And I think it's really damaging to think about this. But I think the way you counteract that and the way you start thinking about things like ethical AI technologies and ethical AI usage is to really think about how explicit you are with your students about their AI literacy and about your expectations for what your students do on your course in terms of using AI. I think until we can fully teach students, like, you can use it like this, it can help you with these things, you can, you shouldn't use it and rely on it for these things. Until you really have those conversations with your students, you can't just assume they know these things. And it builds in that trust as well if you aren't looking at them as people who are, trying to cheat, who are trying to be academically dishonest, but they're utilizing the tools around them. They're using what's available to help them and guide them with their research. Uh, to me, ChatGPT and these types of tools are just kind of this generation's Wikipedia. It's something that, still isn't perfect. It still isn't the way to get like good, solid information all the time, but it is a place to start. And, as time has gone, Wikipedia has gone from a place where I can become the president of the United States, uh, to something that's highly fact-checked and now has sources and things that are attributed to it. So I think with AI, what we'll see is these tools will change and adapt and develop. But if we teach our students now how to use them in good, sustainable, and ethical ways, we don't really have to worry about them then relying solely on that to give them answers, but how they can use these tools to help them, further the skills they're already getting in our classrooms.
Great. Thank you very much. So far, we have had many interesting discussions about the impact of AI on higher education and the related technology that affects the both workplace, and school. We talked about some of the assessment plans and human interface design to meet the demand in the age of AI. Now, I would like to invite Yijo, a Microsoft MVP in AI, to share his successful story on bridging AI to practical learning and teaching. Hi, Yijo. First of all, congratulations on your students team winning another award for a student-led project. Could you share with us how you use AI in your classroom to help your students succeed?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for your invitation. Hello, everyone. My name is Ijo, currently serving as a lecturer in Australia, and I'm honestly to be part of this important conversation today. In my teaching practice, I integrate AI not only as a tool, but as a co-creator in the learning experience. One step-out example is a project we developed called ET Badge, a blockchain-powered AI credentialing system that allows students to earn the digital badge by demonstrating their skills in real-world scenario. This system uses a machine learning algorithm to evaluate the student submission, track progress, and offer the personalized feedback loops. On other sides, I also coach student innovation teams, and we've seen the incredible success with a project like the name is Safely, as an AI-based emergency response platform focused in elderly care center. And Beachbog, another project, autonomous AI robotic to environmental cleanup. These were not just academic projects. They received the international recognition, such as a PICA Program winner and Hong Kong Science Park funding. For curriculum design to real-world development, I ensure students learn how AI is applied responsibly, from ethical data sourcing to transparent decision-making. I want them to understand not just how AI works, but also why ethical AI matters in building trust and credibility, especially in higher education. Ultimately, AI in my classroom isn't about the replacement of educator. It's about augmenting their ability to personalize, scale, and transform the learning experience. Thank you.
That's encouraging. I also know that you co-design the learning and teaching materials with your students, right? I know that that is one of your area of expertise. Could you share some of the best practice for those who wish to implement this pedagogy?
Thank you for your question, Dr. Peter. I strongly believe in the power of co-creation. Co-designing the learning material with students is not just a trend. It's a transformative rate pedagogy that puts students at the heart of their own learning journey. In my approach, I begin every course by conducting a lead analysis with students. Always ask, what do you want to achieve from this course? And how do you prefer to learn? This feedback directly informs my desire of interactive module, simulation tools, and even the gamified element using the AI-driven platform. We normally use the tools like Microsoft Azure, Quantitative Service, and Unity AI SDK to co-create the content. For example, in one course, students have to train semantic analysis model to analyze the peer feedback. This not only help them learn how model works, but also give them ownership over the content. What makes co-create the design effective is the continued feedback loops. I apply agile learning cycle, plan, prototype, test, and refine, involving the student in every step. I also implement transparent assessment rubric, co-develop with learner, fostering the fairness and accountability. This method have led to higher engagement, improved the learning outcome, and more trust in the teaching process. It's not just about the democracy, the classroom. It's about the empower the learner as a collaborator, innovator, and the future AI legacy citizen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As our time is nearly up, may I invite all the speakers to share your final thoughts on our topic, developing transparent and accountable ethical AI technologies to build trust in higher education. In about 1 minute time, we would like to summarize and obtain your final thoughts in order to take actions. Professor Dennis, please.
So my final thought would be for the world in the next 5 years, it's going to change a lot. For example, so AI is going to change a lot of things in our society, and so for ourselves, we need to embrace the change basically. So it will be a great tool to provide convenience, but we also need to be careful to rely on AI too much. So you need to be careful to rely on AI too much, which might be a hindrance on you how to learn the basics of computer science, or you how to learn the foundation in computer science. And so embrace the change, learn how to use AI, but you also need to be careful on relying on the AI too much. So that would be my advice for how AI is going to transform in education.
And Lee?
Thank you, Peter. As we conclude our discussions on developing transparent, accountable, ethical AI technologies to build trust in higher education, I want to emphasise on how Microsoft is actively addressing these challenges. We are committed to fostering transparency, accountability, and ethical standards in AI development. Our initiatives include comprehensive guidelines, robust tools, and continuous research to ensure AI technologies are designed responsibly. For those interested in learning more, I highly recommend exploring our resources on ethical AI. A great starting point is our communities. We have communities on the Azure AI Foundry discussions, and we also have a dedicated Microsoft AI Azure Foundry Discord, where we have active discussions, conversations, debates, and product group Ask Me Anythings. So we do recommend that you do join these online resources and take part in our activities.
Kimberly, please.
I think my final thought is going to be slightly controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. What I hope is that people in higher education don't use AI and their kind of mistrust of how students are using AI as an excuse to going back to just in-person lecture hall, unseen exams. That is not the best way to assess our students. That is not a realistic representation of what they will be doing when they enter the working world. So, focus on those authentic and meaningful assessment tasks. Focus on the way in which we teach our students to be responsible and ethical about the way they use AI, and focus on, that skill transfer rather than just kind of taking the default of kind of going back to more traditional type assessments, because I don't think that's the answer. And it's it's not helpful to the students. Thank you.
Dr. Kate?
Thank you, Peter. To build trust in AI in higher education, we must design not just transparent AI systems, but transparent cultures around how AI is used. This starts in our classroom, with educators modeling ethical AI use, guiding students to verify, question, and reflect, and co-creating norms that align AI with learning values. At NUS, we are developing verification and validation models and toolkits to help students engage critically with AI, fostering not passive acceptance but informed, calibrated trust. Ultimately, when AI system, educational practices, and human values are in alignment, we could empower students not only to learn with AI, but also shape how it's used responsibly and ethically. Thank you.
And Yijo?
As we integrate the AI deeper in higher education, we must remember that trust is not given, it's earned. And we earn that trust by being transparent, ethical, and accountable in everything we do. We have a shared responsibility as an educator, technologists, and institution to ensure that AI is not just powerful, but also fair, explainable, and inclusive. We must co-create with our students apply the human-centered design and prioritize the privacy, integrity, and transparency in every AI application we introduce. Let's not just use AI to automate, let's use it to amplify the human connection, enhance the learning outcome, and build more equitable academic community. So together we can ensure that AI in education is not just intelligent, but also trustworthy and transformative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again to all our panel speakers for these discussions. I believe our audience had gained valuable insight from this inspiring webinar. Last but not least, there are many other interesting side events in this multi-stakeholder forum on science, technology, and innovations for the Sustainable Development Goals. If you would like to stay updated on related informations, please register on our side event webpage. We will share any upcoming events related to learning, teaching, and higher education, and of course the use of responsible and ethical AI with you. Once again, thank you to Dr. Kimberly Davis, Dr. Dennis Wong, Dr. Kay Lee, Lee Scott, and Yijo Cho for your valuable time and insight. We look forward to seeing you and the audience at our next event. Thank you very much.